We'll just get started here in just a couple of minutes.
Nice elevator music.
Hello, everybody. Welcome, Wizards. We are just about to get started. We'll give a couple more minutes. I think Bear Snake is supposed to be here. Loch Ness is here. Loch Ness, can you invite me to be a co-host?
Yes.
I don't know how to do it.
Invite to co-host. There we go. I guess you have to
There we
be a
go.
speaker prior. And
Okay,
hey, Bear
perfect.
Snake.
What's up, friends?
Hello. All right, let's get started. It's November 17th. This is Dota, Bear Snake, and Loch Ness channeling in from the Quantum Downs. The Wizards are walking across the universe from the Citadel to the Seventh Realm. It's a long and treacherous journey, and the group has recently been separated from Elf near the rim of Dreammaster Lake. Luckily, the team of Fur Gnomes have been helpful in tracking his trail, and we are confident that Elf will be rescued soon. Is he being held hostage by Nosferatu? Was he enticed by the psychedelic siren song of Mindio's music? Did he have a bad encounter with the Zombie King, or did the kobolds just have him over for dinner? Only time will tell, but what we can tell is what day it is. It's Wizard Walking Wednesday.
Let's go.
Glad to have everybody here. Let's hear.
These
All
wizards
right,
were made for walking.
Well played, Dota.
Oh, I love it.
Way to fill the shoes.
I love it. Oh, yeah. They are big shoes, and they don't fit my angel feet. But today, we've got a lot to talk about with feet because we are releasing the Metaverse Ready Walk Cycles. So this is just a crazy, crazy amount of work. We've got a bunch to talk to you about this. But yeah, so we've got all 10,000 unique wizards, including those that passed in, all 10,000. We've got full turnarounds with walk cycles, and the idea is that your wizards can basically walk around in any metaverse that will support us. So we'll talk a little bit about that. So, you might have seen, for example, that we already are, these sprite sheets are already supported by World Wide Web Metaverse. So a bunch of people tried it out. You can visit their URL at worldwideweb3.com. And what you can do is you can connect with your wizard and you can walk around, and it's amazing. It's really, really exciting. I really love the feeling of like how it comes to life. Like, who here tried it out? I saw it, Magus Devin, you were there.
Yeah.
I was doing it.
Yeah, it was great actually.
Hanging around, looking for pills.
I couldn't get mine to connect.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's still a little bit early.
It was great because it was like
I believe it's in its testing phase.
I was cycling through all the wizards and seeing all of their animations, and it was pretty fluid how everything was going. I like the little outline that they put on the wizards, so that way it shows that, like, I guess different platforms, they can do certain things maybe to make the sprite sheets fit more in with their world if they have to, because I don't think the outlines are on the original sprite sheets, are they?
That's right. Yeah. We actually, that was one of the things we noticed is we don't have outlines, black outlines on our pixel art, but then they kind of added it to make it look better in their world. So super fun. So one of the things about these sprite sheets is that they're open for anybody to use in like any kind of project that they want. So for example, if you have a game or you want to build a game or you want to do like RPG Maker, or another phaser game, you can use these sprite sheets in your game. I mean, I think really, we'll talk about like, and the IP rights are basically along the same lines as the IP rights for the characters in general, which is like wizard holders, of course, can make derivative arts of their own wizard. And then if another platform wants to use them, if it's a Web3 platform, ideally wizards who own the NFT can connect and use it. I've written up a blog post that has the API. that specifies everything that you need to do in order to use these sprite sheets. So it's an open API. The sprite sheet is both a like PNG file, which has like all of the frames, and then there's also like a JSON file, which is like a data file that programmers use to kind of specify like where the specific like frames are within that. So these are just the beginning. All we have right now are walk cycles, but we'll be adding, more eventually as we grow. I know that some people want to do, so what are some things that you can do with this, right? One, you can connect to World Wide Web 3. Two, you can also download it from the Book of Lore. So we've included all of the assets, all the frames, and I've also included the head and the body separately. So for example, if you want to just like get the turnarounds of the head frames, for example, you can do that. We also have the bot, like SPZ, Sorcerer Ilias. He put together a Discord bot that you can use in our bot channel. So you just do !walk with your wizard ID, and you can see it. It's really, really fun. And then also,
not to cut you off, but I was having so much fun just walking around doing nothing.
Right?
Why? Like, can someone explain to me why that's so much fun? I don't know.
I love it. Yeah. And there's still a couple of like little details, right? Like we've QA'd it. We try to make sure that every single that every single wizard works, whether you have a head or not. But you still might find a little bit of details. I think Elf has an eagle's eye for detail, and he's already pointed out to me like, oh, there's this body and head combination where it's like 1 pixel to the left. If you weren't looking closely, you might miss it. But so we're still going to be pushing updates to these. So if you for example, if you download them, be sure to check back for updates because we're pushing those out through all the week. Also in the blog post, I put together a demo game. So again, if you're a coder, I share this with the coding group. But there's actually like a demo game that shows how to like download the sprite sheet, put in a username, you can walk around. It's really fun. So check that out. And of course, the credits, right? So the people who put this together was more than just Elf. Elf drew sort of the original heads, the original turnarounds, but then there was a huge team of people to put this together. So we've got specifically, I know of Todd, Tad Major, Good Boy, Good Time, Young Wizzy, and then also Cam 1985. So it's a lot of work, right? Because there's like hundreds of bodies, hundreds of heads, and getting it with animated. So yeah, huge shout out goes to the pixel art team who helped out there.
Yeah, I think it's a massive, massive accomplishment for our art team to create sprite sheets for 10,000 Wizards. I don't think any other project has full turnaround or angles, if you want to say, comes from React.
Not that I know of. Yeah, the only project that I know of that seems like similar in terms of the level of quality for the animation would be like Nifty DJ.
Mhm.
It's like I think that they're kind of like Battle Royale. They've done a really good job in making those custom props, but other than that, I don't really know of any other projects that have kind of the same degree. And I think for us, again, the big picture is this idea that like owning a Forgotten Runes NFT is not just about the original 50 by 50 pixels, but it's about every possible expression of this character in every metaverse. We're starting here with 2D, but like there are other metaverses that exist, and then also that's for games, and then also for like shows and TVs, and there's all these different expressions of Witcher Wizard that we're just going to keep adding on as time goes on.
Yeah, and I will say, like, I think I think it's to your point, like there's different expressions of the wizards over time, but it's also like the idea of being able to take this static JPEG and use it in other ways. So I think like it's the utility, and I know that this is just the beginning. I see this as like a tiny baby step in like a very long journey, epic journey for not only the wizards but the NFT space of like moving into the metaverse, right? And where you're you're able to not only feel like you look and your NFT embodies you and you are your NFT, but now you can actually put action behind that. And so like this is just like I think just like that flash in a pan of example of like where things are headed. And I know that even just for our group and our own plans, it is like very indicative. It's a foreshadowing of where we're taking this thing. So we're super stoked.
Yeah, exactly. That like I think one of the reasons that you saw PFPs do so well this summer is because the only metaverses that really exist would be Twitter and Discord. I mean, you sort of have Decentraland or maybe Sandbox, some of these early like platforms, but they're like all very early. Like what you're using day to day, the thing that works is a PFP because you just have one photo on Twitter. And whereas we sort of move into this world where everyone is crypto is working towards a metaverse. We are working towards our own Forgotten Runes metaverse, which we can talk a bit more about. All the way up to Microsoft and Facebook creating their own metaverse, like whatever monstrosity they imagine there, right? But like the idea is that you sort of the NFT actually becomes like maybe an analogy is like the username almost, right? Like how when you have kind of your username handle on one platform, how you want to have that on every platform. Like with NFTs, you sort of get that by default. Like when you own, when you own one wizard NFT, now you automatically have kind of ownership over that persona on every platform. And so, yeah, that's how we see it. And like this, like you said, is just the beginning of all the things we'll be integrating with. So yeah, on this, there were some also questions around like, well, how long have we been talking to Web3 about the integration? So one of the things with that is they moved very, very quickly. So we've been talking to them since we kind of talked about the sprite sheets originally, maybe like a month or two ago. And again, the sprite sheets are an open API for anyone to integrate to try to be as simple as possible. So the way that we describe it with them is like, it's not even so much that we like sat down and had a formal partnership as much as the API is kind of working as we intended. We were like, hey, we have this API. If you want wizards to walk around in your meta, here's how you auth, here's how you do it. And so it worked. And so they are a partner in the sense that like everyone who participates in kind of the Runiverse with us and creating things is also a partner. But we are talking to some of the other metaverses as well, especially the other pixel ones. Hopefully we'll have some more there. I'll tell you one project that just came on my radar in the last couple of weeks I think is really cool is Legend Maps. I know that there's some Wizzies here who are already looking at that. I think they like mint tomorrow, and I even picked up some on OpenSea today. They look really cool. I haven't talked to them. I don't know anything about them. They haven't agreed to anything, but I would love to be able to like use our Wizzies to walk around Legend Maps. That seems just like, I don't know, a natural fit. I mean, hey, they're even using the same font. So there's got to be something synergistic.
Is
there.
that an example of a Lego block being built on the NFT chain where projects can be built together, like real simplistic?
Exactly. We build a pixel art based walk cycle. They build pixel art based maps, and we both have open APIs, right? As long as you have like permissive, like if their license is as permissive as ours is, then like even some other third party, any one of the wizards can come together and like put those pieces together. And so I think that is something that's really exciting because, with NFTs, right, there's all of the incentives are aligned for every person who's bringing something to the table.
It's just another good example of how this project is an NFT 2.0, because with DeFi, you have solid DeFi projects that were just standing Lego blocks alone, but now with DeFi 2.0, they're all being integrated in some way. So now we're starting to see that with this project and NFT 2.0, and that's just really exciting.
I love that. Yeah, it's that idea of composability, right? That like if you build something, build it so that way it can be like combined and composed with other things, and so that's how you're able to get new things that are built. Bear Snake, I'm going to mute you just because there's some traffic. So, all right, so let's move on to art for the week. So we've got shout outs for Art and Lore. I don't know, Loch Ness, maybe you want to talk a bit about this if you're still here.
Yeah.
But you go for it, yeah.
Yeah. Just to button up what we just talked about as well is, when we say wizards that are at work, we're really laying down the foundation that we need to really support the art and lore aspect of this community because it's so important. So the sprite sheets are just one more step forward in that direction. And we really want to support anyone who wants to create anything, honestly, through with the Wizards. So always hit us up. I know that Tiki did another 3D wizard, and that looks amazing. He did one of our profile pick that hasn't been released yet, but I just wanted to shout that out really quick. And we also had the slime set by Stellar Mage and his Topaz slime.
Love it.
Love it. Retired Year Farmer and the Tale of Wagmi-san. I guess some people still believe that Wagmi-san is lost, perhaps. I'm not so sure, but I'm very excited to see this unfold and where this journey of the retired yield farmer leads. We also had The Drop, which had a magazine. I guess it was a digital magazine drop that Oz Mabaro and my friend's art cover did the cover for. Looks absolutely amazing. As per usual, Oz just kills it with the pixels. I can't imagine how much work goes behind that. I myself tried to like dabble in Aspirite or have you pronounce that, and very tedious work.
Yeah.
We also had Mindio's Psychedelic Tunes, which were really amazing. It's on SoundCloud. If you guys haven't heard it, we'll drop it in the chat here on the space. Magus Tumbage also had an amazing rendition of their wizard. I'm attempting to put these up here. Just give me 1 second. Multitasking. Oh, how else does it?
Also, Joe Flaherty, he put together the what is it called? Perler beads in rendition of his wizard, which is also amazing, which we can also share in here. And then it seems like there might be Henry Boyd starting a Blue Wizard Guild in the making, which looks super interesting. It'll, at the very least, the artwork is really neat. But I guess if we had to give an award for the art of the week, it would for sure have to go to Nosferatu, aka Tom the Baptist.
Oh my
for
gosh!
getting his tattoo.
Oh my gosh!
Of the flaming skull of Shaman Ambrose of the Palms. Wow!
I think this is the first tattoo on the record.
Yeah, first one on the record. So one of the things that is just so good. I have the pictures saved to my phone. I thought it was amazing and inspiring and so exciting. We also, I sent out a tweet saying, yeah, by the way, like, we'll pay for your tattoo. And people are like, wait, are you serious? So yeah, Tom, of course, did not ask for it, wouldn't have, didn't need it, didn't want it. But we reimbursed him for his tattoo, and that offer stands really for any wizard. If you go and you want to get a real inked permanent tattoo, that's on the house. We were happy to pay for it. Just send me receipts. If you decide to, get a full color back tattoo and it's going to be more than whatever, $5,000, just let me know. I'm not even saying that's a cap necessarily. I just want a budget beforehand. And yeah, so that's a real offer. I've actually, when we put that out, I think I had maybe 4 or 5 people reply saying like, "Are you serious? Because I'm like scheduling an appointment to get my wizard tattoo." So I've only got DMs of appointments. I haven't gotten any other receipts yet, but
I got
dibs.
I got dibs on the Forgotten Rooms. What is that? The font across my chest. I got an open chest piece.
Oh God.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Yeah,
exactly. Never
Say
forgotten.
It with your chest.
Exactly. And I'll unveil it when we get our merch. I'll show it with some merch.
That's what's up. Yeah, that was really cool to see, Tom. Mad props to you. And great art this week for everyone, as usual. I think it's just so nice to see everybody keep the drumbeat going of what's happening in the world, and it's like we as a team are working tirelessly behind the scenes, obviously on a bunch of stuff, and you guys are the heartbeat, because you guys are out in the world. So it's awesome to see.
Well, we'll talk about some of the sick burns of the week, the book of lore. We've got some lore from OX Sharon, a few other things, but maybe we could open up the floor for a few minutes if anybody has any questions or comments so far.
I just want to raise retired yield farmer. This thread with Wagmi-san is super cool. I know some people in this group chat are involved with the 10KTF project. I feel like if we can get this on the radar of them and get them to kind of retweet it or maybe do some sort of collaboration with retired yield farmer as he continues on this story, I think that could be cool. Could be fun, good for visibility also.
I agree.
Totally.
Agreed.
Yeah, we definitely are in touch with the 10KTF team and definitely can integrate retired years farmers journey into that for sure.
I wanted to hear. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say they just have a large audience, and I think the audience is quite different from the Wizards audience because they're just broader. So if we can get them to like retweet it, share it, it's artistic, it's good visibility for them also. And I think it's fun, but I don't have any connection with them. That's why I'm bringing it up on here because I know some people here do.
I'm a pretty active member in the Discord over there, and they're really fond of the Wizards project, so I don't think it would be really hard to get that going.
Maybe we'll do a side chat with retired yield farmer because I was chatting him about it yesterday, and see what we can do.
Any and all help? Hell yeah, let's go. I also wanted to sort of open it up to like, again, this idea of, I think all of us agree that, you know, metas are coming, they're here, they're going to evolve, they're going to become more and more intricate, and they're obviously going to be closely tied to, you know, digital assets and NFTs. I just want to get other people's sort of opinion on that and what they're seeing, what they're excited about, why they think it's important, why they don't think it's important. I just think it's a huge, it's like we're seeing the tip of the iceberg, and in my opinion, I think there's a lot under the surface. In fact, like it's where it's all gonna go. So if anyone has any thoughts about that, happy to have a discussion about it.
Yeah, because I think that, right, like a first layer, it's so interesting how like Facebook changing their name to Meta really upset. It made everyone stop and be like, wait, what is the metaverse? Because all of a sudden you have this behemoth who just adopted the name, changed their whole company name. Now you can't talk about the metaverse without talking about Mark Zuckerberg. Which is a genius move, really, but then no one's really that happy about it. So, you know, I think that one of the original ideas that, hey, that people think about is this idea that you're like, something about ownership happens with NFTs. You're able to kind of like walk around and participate in maybe this like giant MMO with like social features. I think that's part of it. But I also feel that like Dom, for example, gave a really helpful analogy where he was like, well, maybe what we do is we call it the hyperverse. And the idea is that like, it goes back to this idea of composability that Zayla Soul was talking about, which is instead of like, you know, AOL, for example, which is this like closed ecosystem where all of the information that you found either had to be published and on AOL. Instead, you have the internet, which is hyperlinked, and anyone can kind of come and contribute. Anyone can create a web page, anyone can set up a website, and then they're interoperable through APIs or a different thing like that. And so that gives us like the internet. Whereas, you know, I tweeted about this earlier this week. Like when I was a kid, we had AOL, and then when we like switched to dial-up, my dad like called AOL to try to cancel, and the agent at AOL was like, oh, why would you want to leave? And my dad's like, well, because I got the internet. And they're like, yeah, but with them, you only get the internet, but with us, you get all of AOL, you know? And it was this idea that like the internet was sort of thought of as this like second class to the level of like curated quality that you get from AOL or whatever. And I can imagine the metaverse sort of like ending up like that. Like in the beginning, maybe Facebook kind of takes away because they're able to put so much money behind it. But in the long term, they sort of get subsumed as like part of, you know, Facebook shouldn't own the internet. Google never owned the internet. And I think the metaverse is going to be similar. So I don't know. There's some folks here. I'd be curious to hear what other people's thoughts are, responses to that.
Sorry, hold on, I'm taking it right here.
I'm not entirely sure what the question is, but thoughts on the metaverse?
For me, it wasn't really a question. It was more just like, what role do we think this is going to play, and do we think there's going to be, maybe the question is going to be, is there going to be a ton of crossover with
Well,
existing projects into where we're headed?
someone had asked earlier this week, what was the main thing you took away from NFTs this year? And my thing is, there's this thing called the meatbag bias, where we're totally consumed with things within inside of our body. Like, we're obsessed with body and anything according to. So when I took on NFTs and I started to like have these wizards in a way like Ethereum or things like that, I felt like my mind was fractionized, you know? And like a part of my soul was put into these different wizards, and now I had these different mediums of expression. So when people cross this like threshold into the metaverse, they're not going to have their bodies, obviously. They're going to have like avatars and shit. So I think this is the first step in culture where we start to take on different ideas of what our outlines, our bodies, our character, our physical expressions could be when they go digital. That's my whole take on it.
Yeah, and I agree with that.
Yeah.
This is Jitsi, by the way, y'all.
Hey,
I'm huge into games in general, as you all know. I've probably said it 1,000 times. I work within esports, and the days of MIRC and having these smaller communities that were established. I think there's a lot of parallels to what we see in NFTs right now. And kind of you asked like what happens when we start putting all these NFTs into these worlds. I think a lot of great things happen, right? And then all these games that start being established and produced, and you want to be able to have interoperability. That's why I'm a huge Dot Bowl overall, just because they kind of work towards that a lot. But it's the identity, and a lot of people before even NFTs and stuff, we had something called like skins in games, right? Like CS:GO is big for this. I think MapleStory was the first one to ever actually have like a loot box, right? But like they've been around, but they were just like barriered off in between like where the developer of those loot boxes made 95% of the profit, right? So I personally see the Wizards, all these type of skins coming out as expressions of each individual, obviously, because like I love my kobold and like the quirky creative creature he is, but you can go represent those kind of identities inside these worlds and continue to do that through gamifying and playing these things. And I think everybody in the world plays games. Storytelling and games are where it's all about. So as it continues to develop and we can basically represent ourselves through these NFTs, it really comes down to like, can you go into a game and plug and play with your NFT, right? And it keeps on building and building and building to the point where it's almost seamless, a couple clicks, which we kind of saw with Web3 right? Like I was clicking around in my inventory and going through my skins. Yeah. And if you could have an entire, let's call it inventory, right? Like I think of like you have that in CS:GO where you have inventory for skins for weapons that you use and you can equip them whenever you want. You do that and you collect those and you keep on moving forward, right? And then I think great communities kind of establish themselves through that. So sorry to rant. That's just how I see it because I'm big on like the gaming verse, I guess, if you want to call it that. But
yeah.
And I love it because within this project, you have such a diversity of characters. Like so many of these wizards are so unique. And like I feel like my wizard really embodies me and my personality. But then there's the unification of the underlying, like we're all part of this wizard family. So it's quite cool, actually, when you go into the metaverse because we can all express our own individual identities, but have our like that group unification.
Representing the community, like this really well-established, awesome community that's been created over the course of multiple months. I completely agree with you, Slick Chick. It's pretty much everything in my mind is where can I go to show people that I like the wizard community, right? Like I want to bring as many people as I possibly can that are like-minded into this community as well, and that's through expression of what we just talked about, right? So yeah, I love that. Express myself, but also express what the community is about through going out into the world with it. 100%.
Yeah. Speaking about communities, I looked at this project and it just caught my eye because I instantly thought Dungeons and Dragons. But like I seen the wizards themselves, and I'm Haitian, so the voodoo priests, all those got my eye. And I was thinking like I'm making an NFT project myself, and I know like you guys like the community to build off each other and stuff like that. And I was thinking if like they could be like parallel universes, if I like buy one of these or not buy but mint one of these wizards and like morph it with my NFT, and of course the royalties and stuff will go back to the communities and stuff.
No, yeah, absolutely, we love that. Like that's totally part of what we're doing here is this idea that it's a universe that can be built on top of. And so if you see a wizard that you identify with, that you feel like you have stories that you want to be told that are part of this universe, and artwork that needs to be created to be a part of this universe, that's so exactly what we're trying to do here. That's how I'm like looking forward to seeing your project.
Haven't we seen that a lot through the space right now too? We're seeing a bunch of like remixes of like two usually successful projects that combine together to make like a remix of them that's like represents maybe both communities, but maybe its own community, right? Like that concept itself is super powerful, which goes back to what you've always been saying, Dota 2, which is like kind of building the building blocks for everything, right? And so, I mean, I always believe that everything we ever do is a remix of all the influences we have our like our lives. So that's awesome to see. I hope more people do that. Hopefully with the Wizards soon too, right? That'd be awesome to see as well.
Yeah, I think
yeah, exactly. Go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was going to change topics after you.
Oh, all right. Well, yeah, I guess like the idea of like combining two projects, like any idea like that, it happens like 10 times a day, but it like breaks my brain because it's just, and it's funny because this expression is used as like a top signal, but it truly is a new paradigm. The question is like, will the bubble burst before people realize it or not? Or will they realize that it truly is a new paradigm and then we just go into super cycle crazy? But for me, there's like all these little steps of going down the rabbit hole. And that first one, I forget who said it. I apologize. Whoever said this but I think it was Zayla. It becomes a part of your soul, owning the wizard. It's like having that moment when you like click buy and you take possession of it and you realize that no one else can have it. That's a pretty primal reaction that you have. And you have to take that step first. And then you realize, oh, it's not just a JPEG. And then when you realize it's not just a JPEG, you're like, oh, it's in the open, uncensored internet. And then when you realize that the World Wide Web 3 thing was another just like total mind blower for me, that I think people building gaming platforms are cool right now, but I also think that maybe it's a little premature. I think that in-game digital goods or assets that can be ported to any game, like you can take your WoW character to Final Fantasy and vice versa. I feel like that's the future. And again, just because of IP and having a closed system internet that we've had where Facebook can own it or Google can own it or whatever, like that's where it almost gets scary how fast change can occur. So, yeah, I've kind of rambled, but new mind blowers every day.
100%.
Yeah, I feel like I'm even recognizing some of these truths about NFTs like in concert with everyone else, right? That made, for sure we started the idea of the wizard NFTs being characters. That's part of the reason why they all have names, for example, is because we knew that we wanted to be able to like do a television show, and it's not just like some random wizard in the universe. It's literally like the Zombie King of the Undead or something. And so we wanted to make sure that there were specific characters being created. But I think as NFTs develop, as the metaverse develops, as this decentralized IP develops, just recognizing how deep the ownership of a particular, like, some other NFTs, but Wizard NFT in particular, goes. I agree with you that it's like it's only growing in scope of what the ownership of the Wizard token sort of like grants you.
100%. And I wanted to also add that NFTs kind of bridge the gap between the internet and the real world in a different way. I feel like if you compare this to, say, online shopping, which can be a personalized experience, but you will at some point maybe see somebody at the club or, at a cafe with your same shirt on, but that's not possible in this space. So I feel like the NFT space gives people this opportunity to expand themselves beyond the tangible world. Kind of piggybacking off what Zayla Soul said, you are like beyond your body in this space. In the tangible world, in the 3D world, there's a limit to how many buildings you can build, a limit to how many books you can have in a library. Sure, you can build more libraries, but at the end of the day, the Earth only has so much space, and we see the result of that. The metaverse and this new internet space gives us the opportunity to expand without the restriction of limit. I believe that a lot of people will come to terms with their own personal like scarcity mindset, and maybe we're getting a little deep here, but I feel there's going to be like personal spiritual shifts that come through this space that I don't believe anyone here in this present moment can even conceptualize, because we're all on this ship together. We're all experiencing this together in different ways for the very first time. And it's just amazing to see and to have this opportunity available. And to touch back on the metaverse thing, I think the move, personally for me, the Zuckerberg thing kind of like put a little taint on the metaverse, just because it was a huge introduction to the metaverse for a larger group of folks who maybe aren't in the NFT scene already. And it creates a certain perception that's obviously associated with Zuckerberg and whatever personal, opinions and what have you, perceptions you have of him. So I feel like, there was a missed opportunity there in terms of people understanding that the metaverse is so much bigger than like Facebook and Zuckerberg, and that it really is an opportunity for you to expand yourself beyond this 3D world. And that's thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, the Facebook thing too.
I loved it.
Okay, I think for relative to most other people, I actually end up. I don't think that Mark Zuckerberg is like too so evil. Like I'm on the like he's just he's like put into a place where he's ruling more people than maybe he was prepared for. But aside from that, I think that their advertisements always don't feel like they have a lot of self-reflection. Like the metaverse advertisement, I'm sure you guys saw like the promoted tweet on Twitter. Am I the only person that saw this? Where like it opens with this image of like looking at a painting where there's like a bull, like a tiger eating a bull.
Yeah, I saw it. Yeah, it's like 4 kids in a museum. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really weird. And it's like, join this metaverse. There's this super creepy tiger that has these like snake eyes that's like eating a bull right in front of you. And if you jump in, you're going to like be dangerous. Right. And like, yeah. And there's like a whole, like, there's like a whole thing about like how that's symbolism from Zoroastrianism or whatever. Forget it. All that to say, Facebook, I agree with you. They put a bit of taint on it, but I think that we can recover that through
I just wanted
the
to say
hyperverse, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, I think no
thank you.
publicity is bad publicity. And like this universe and the NFT
good,
space
yeah.
is still small, right? So like,
Yeah.
and yeah, the crypto market is now $3 trillion, which sounds large, but the number of investors that you have in it and people that have been in it and holding for a while, it's still a small universe. So, I mean, I think it's good in terms of visibility again, and getting people to ask what the metaverse is, like the entire world that's not in the NFT and crypto space asking, and maybe they'll get some wrong answers, maybe they'll get weird answers, but there's a lot of like TED Talks if people Google, if people research, where they'll develop their own point of view and their own interpretation of what it is. So
I totally agree. I totally agree with you. You have to like all of these things have to get cracked open. They have to get mixed around. You have to hear everybody's opinion. No one, there's always that moment when a community like the crypto and NFT community like gets opened up into the rest of the world, and it's jarring for the original group, but for everybody else, you have to remember it's like everybody was new to NFTs and crypto at some point, and it's just happening to everybody else. It's just a cycle of emerging platforms that I'm sure a lot of us on this spaces have been a part of. I know I was a part of it with YouTube when it was a place to watch cat videos and like remember how to fix a toilet. And then all of a sudden there were these things called YouTubers who started using it as like a independent video distribution platform. And up until then, cable and television broadcast network channels like controlled all video distribution, and it was this tiny little community, and they grew, and then all of a sudden everybody was in there and it mixed up, and there's a lot of opinions, but ultimately it's a good thing because now look at, mix up like a quarter of Google's or Alphabet's revenue. I mean, that's not a bad thing.
Right.
Yeah.
100%. And we also see it with the Staples Center changing the name or having that crypto.com. I'm not sure if you guys.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
But that was just unveiled to be happening for the next 20 years. The name for the next 20 years, crypto.com, or not sure exactly.
Yeah, and I think giving some credit where it's due, like I posted about this earlier. Like Zuckerberg bought Oculus Rift back in like 2014, so like it gives a little perspective on how early they were planning this and how early they saw this trend before pretty much everyone else. They bought it all the way back in 2014. And I remember when that first happened, I was like, why are they getting into gaming? Because like it was just like for like VR games, and I was like, what's Facebook doing getting into gaming? Like now it comes like full circle what they're actually doing with it and why they planned that move so far ahead. So I think, I think they saw something before everybody else did, and they were able to kind of latch onto that and like take the bull by the horns a little bit. So I think they can get that first comer's advantage with being everybody's introduction, I guess.
I really like how that was really important on what you said, how they established the basis on the language. When you think of Meta, now they're tethered to Facebook. I think there's a really big language barrier where you hear NFT and there's so much meaning attached. That non-fungible token, what is that? I think as the language evolves, we'll start to see more people on board because
I think NFT is
people
terrible.
as I'm trying to teach people about crypto and whatnot, the first thing I tell them is to do a vocabulary list. That way you can at least absorb the information, So, I think it's really big with the language on that part. That was a good one.
Hi, Michael.
Yeah, and these big companies joining also really affirm the space, right? Like, oh, we actually are doing something here. Like Facebook's joining us or Staples Center's joining us. But I'll let Michael speak. Go ahead.
Sorry to interject. I'm pretty new to this stuff. I'm trying to divulge, or rather get involved with different communities and try and understand what the best way to get connected amongst this realm is. To be honest, I was reluctant to join Twitter. I've been investing in different coins for a while, but reluctant on NFTs, et cetera, et cetera. And I got my first one last week due to a very good friend. Is there any kind of concrete advice you can give someone like myself who wants to enter this avenue and even I have an interest in making NFTs at some point. I know these are newbie questions. You guys are all very experienced, so I don't mean to steal that light from you guys.
But this is something I can learn from you.
Go ahead. Sorry.
There's a ton of, I think, first and foremost, like, congratulations on being here, because this is a first step towards that. Being in this space, speaking. A lot of people lurk for months on end before they even like introduce themselves. So you're already off to a really great start. I would poke around. Like, one of the things I did was I joined as many Discords as possible. Maybe I overwhelmed myself a bit, but just getting in the grid of things, like jump in toes first, like jump right in. That's my advice.
That's kind of my attitude right now, is just jump in, learn what I can learn, connect with. I see, and again, I haven't really said this, but I'm not a money chaser as a person. I understand it's a necessary tool to connect and to help build projects and help other people, reach goals that they have. And so when you see metaverse and these things that are pushing this new format for making money, it's kind of like you're kind of naturally, if you're paying attention, it makes sense to get involved whether you like it or not, so to speak. And I think it's a cool concept what's going on. So I appreciate the encouragement in that. It's very foreign at first, and I'm I like people. That's my thing. So it's just anyway, thank you,
Michael.
I'll go ahead and listen.
I think first off is like, no one here is an expert, because the game changes literally hourly. So that's the first thing. So don't ever think that like, because moving fast, it's because you're not like smart enough or not plugged into the right people. It just moves that fast. So that's number one. Number two is the words right now, because it's so new, we literally don't even have words to accurately describe what concepts are. So NFT is incredibly vague, ambiguous, misleading in some places.
Correct.
And so people just kind of like use these shortcut mental models that are kind of legacies from the meat space world, but they really don't work here. So if you've played an MMO before, that's a
Yes.
little bit closer. Like having the Sword of Truth is a lot closer to buying an NFT than buying a piece of art is. Or maybe it's kind of both. So you don't have to be a money guy. You don't have to be an art guy. You don't have to be a video game guy, wizard guy, whatever. You can just be you, and you'll find a place in Web3 because you're literally remaking the whole physical world in a different location.
Yeah.
So whatever you
I think
bring it, dude.
Yeah, I think by
Thank you,
even
Tom.
participating and being here in this space, you're like writing the cultural event horizon. So just take it for as you will and express and tell other people about it the best you can. That's all we can do.
And you
Yeah,
Sure,
this is
thank you.
a good place to do that.
Yeah, and I would add that it's like learning a new language. You know, I'm pretty new to the space as well, you know, as far as NFTs go. But it's like you immerse yourself in it. You start talking the language every day, talking to people who know the language. You're going to pick up on things. And I forget who mentioned it earlier. Maybe it was Type Shit. Said something about making a vocabulary. Yeah, writing down like the nomenclature, you know, like the phrases and the things that you hear people say and what they mean. That's huge on understanding and being able to communicate in the space with everybody, as well as forget who Forgotten was, but said join a bunch of different discords, you know, join a bunch of different groups and talk to as many people as you can. And I think it's a whole new step that we're taking, is like we're decentralizing a lot of these different things. Well, social media, you know, Facebook turning into Meta, they're trying to get into the space, but they're keeping the same. I don't know about Meta and what they're trying to do, but like we need to figure out how to decentralize social media and make it, instead of these cliques of who you are and what circles you run in, you know, this is now about what you're interested in and what you want to learn about. I think that's something, it's all so evolutionary that it's really hard to wrap the head around, you know?
Yeah, thank you so much for the input, guys. It is overwhelming at first, and it seems like without really a good base, I feel so spread thin, honestly. And like you had mentioned earlier, I believe it was you, Tom. I have considered myself lacking, or I'm only 29, but I feel like sometimes it's a generational gap in a way, and I know that there are people. Well, it's just, and I don't want to make excuses, so I want to learn. And so thank you for the encouragement. Thank you.
Yep.
Totally.
I think it's just a new concept in general. So I think even like younger generations, some of them aren't really too clicked into it. Like I know there's a lot of younger generations, they play Fortnite, and I think that's kind of like a proto metaverse we kind of like talk about, because there's they have like concerts that they do in there from like celebrities. They have like custom models that they import into there, and like it's like you have Marshmallow throws a concert, or they have like the drop where they have like the Naruto models in, so like you buy special models and stuff to like skin your character with, and like that's just like yours, but it's not like individual ownership of it or anything. But it's like kind of
like having Renegade Raider back in the day was like such a valuable thing. Okay,
yeah.
I think Tim Sweeney will be our fucking white knight when it comes to taking the metaverse back, because he invested $1 billion into the metaverse. They have a better thing going for them, and I play Fortnite every night before I go to bed. It's real for me. And the narrative, dude, they're totally spinning it out to be the metaverse coming. Everything is black. There's a big ass block or cube in the middle of the fucking map right now. Like Tim Sweeney, genius. They're setting the symbols in foundation right now, and an unveiling is coming.
Yep, I think so too. I think that they're really trying to push kind of like their like entry points in the metaverse. But I think what's going to be a really big stepping point is when people realize that like the Fortnite skins and stuff that you get, they only exist within like Fortnite, and you can't, if there's like another place that you want to use those characters in, you are barred from using them because you don't actually own them. So like maybe, you know, if your friends are in like another game that they're really all enjoying, and you really like your character that you built in Fortnite or whatever, but you can't bridge it over. I think that when people recognize that you get that individual ownership of, you know, what your character is or how you represent yourself, and you can bridge across anywhere that you go on the web, that's truly when like, you know, it'll really click. So I think stuff like Facebook going to Meta is okay for the general point, because then eventually it'll click with people when they realize that they're dated from really exploring.
Yeah.
Well, even
Right.
those, you know, those games you're mentioning. Sorry, you mentioned games, and that's why I want to talk. Those games themselves, when you sell skins, you sell it within an inventory and marketplace that's designed by the IP holders, right? So, like, a good example of this is I opened up a loot box that has like $1,500 skin in there that I can only sell back to Steam, right? Like, okay, but then I have to go spend that money in the Steam network. So, you know, you use like a third-party program where I went and sold it for Bitcoin, and therefore you're getting past it. But that's like step one. Like, and they can sit in there. That's fine. Like, you can have Fortnite, you can have Counter-Strike, you can have those great games, have those inventories and marketplaces. But once you start giving over the ownership, it has to change everything, because now Steam's not pocketing everything. So like that's step one. And like I love those concepts of what we're gonna do to be able to bridge the gap, but they don't always need to be two, because you're always gonna have the millions of players that just play Fortnite and don't give a damn about going over to a different game, right? But they still want to be able to trade and have ownership of those items in their inventory so they can make another purchase within that world that they're playing in.
I think there's kind of already a semi-bridge
Yeah,
where creators are allowed to build in-game, and I'm not sure how the IP rights exist.
I guess that means metaverse, all that would be the sense that it's
Yeah, I lost you there, Oracle. I think following up on that, I think one of the things that has been kind of like an argument against why existing game developers would want to integrate crypto is because when you're big enough to have that closed system, why would you want to expose your economy to kind of like these outside forces? And so there's a lot of reasons why maybe like Fortnite, for example, maybe only wants to keep your like skins within the Fortnite universe and the money within their ecosystem, and they're big enough to do that. You know, maybe they'll decide to integrate with the broader ecosystem or not. I'm not sure. But what you get when you have kind of projects like us is it almost is like I'm sure you've heard the term like vampire attacks. So the idea of what Sushi did to Uniswap, which was they forked Uniswap, and then they said to the liquidity, which you can think of almost as like players, is they said, hey, if you come play over here, if you put your liquidity over here in Sushi Swap, we'll actually issue you Sushi token and we'll pay you to come play over here, and you can take your same liquidity, same sort of like mindset. I think that's a very simple way of what you'll actually kind of see happening sort of in games, which is like, if for example, you know, like let's say legend maps. We love legend maps, for example, and we want more legend maps to buy wizards. You know, we could build our own integration of legend maps with wizards, and then now all of a sudden we kind of get like the buy-in from that community. And so it's a way like this cooperation, I think, will develop in ways that are like super interesting, and we're just now figuring out. We've only got about 10 minutes left. I want to transition a little bit into sick burns, which would be the notable burns of the week, and then I would like also for Sharon to come up and give her lore. I've been chatting in the Discord. If Sharon requests to speak, let's bring her up and we can have her. I know she's switching to her phone, but so I've shared the sick burns of the week up on the Twitter feed last Thursday. So that would have been just a day after last Wizard Wednesday. Baffy burned Mystic Ozier of the Capital and received the ultra rare Blood Eater Revenant Ozier of Nightmare Paradise. That is one scary dude. And then yesterday, we had another, after like probably 2 days, I don't know exactly, but like after 48 hours of no burns at all, someone burned Ghost Eater Diobolus of Taratulus, transmuted into the Zombie King of the Undead, which is just this incredible Zombie King with Fresh Brains prop. Is just one of the gems of the Forgotten Souls collection. I was so thrilled to see it come out. Unfortunately, Sela of the Wood immediately after burned and tried their hand and was greeted with an ash pile with bones. Well, better luck next time, Sela. Sorry about that. But one of the things you should know is that you can read and write lore for souls in the Book of Lore. So big shout out to Niski, who's here. Niski has added support to read and write to the Book of Lore. He's been working super hard on that. One of the about the Book of Lore, we're going to add editing soon. It's a monster feature, and we're going to try to make everything a little easier to use, a little bit easier to edit. But that's coming. And we will also be adding kind of like asset packs for souls, as well as, I mean, eventually walk cycles for souls. The asset packs will be like near term. The kind of the turnarounds for souls is admittedly going to be a bit out there because, well, for one, we probably should wait for there to be just more souls kind of minted into the universe. We're only about 400 in. So that's the Book of Lore and Souls. Sharon, did you make it up on stage? I'm so looking forward to hearing your lore.
I've sent her a request, so we'll
okay, we're
in.
close.
And
well, while she's coming up here, I've got a couple more community shout outs. So just like community builds of the week. So one, we've got Chuck K, who did more translations to the website. Thanks, Chuck. Incredible. We've also got, there are folks in the community talking about Donut DAO. So Donut DAO is there. It's hard for me to tell you about what it is because it's not really anything yet. It's more of a discussion at the moment. But this is a community effort for building a DAO around the idea that it's a DAO focused on like wizards and lore. So does that mean that it's used to fund and commission wizard art? Does that mean it's used to fund games development? Does that mean it's used to fund Jelly Donut Saturdays for every wizard? You will have to join the Donut DAO thread and find out.
Can I ask a noob question?
Absolutely.
If I wanted to make a piece of wizard art, I would not have the format to push it. Could I offer that piece to one of you, or how I don't even want anything. It'd be cool to make an NFT that did anything. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Okay, so so you can mint on OpenSea. You can mint on OpenSea without paying any gas via their UI, if that's what you're asking.
Okay, awesome. And then essentially, would that be considered a part of this community? Would that be a subset of my own art? Would that how does that work? I'm sorry, I know this is so newbie.
Totally fine. Yeah. So let's see. Typically, that is an interesting question. So if you mint an NFT, the question is, well, does that make you part of this community or not? The way that typically these, I think that the definition of community is very broad, and I think it depends on the artwork, because we have plenty of artwork created by people who are not Elf and myself that we would for sure consider part of the community. In fact, one of the community shout outs that I'll give right now would be the Nouns Wizards project, which was a secret but is not a secret anymore. And the idea is that it is a project that is like derivative works of nouns and wizards. TV has been helping work on the contracts for this, and Brett has done the artwork, and so there's other people working on it. If you're interested in that project or helping out, you can reach out to TV or Brett or Matazuki. And this would be something that, Zayla Soul, go ahead.
All right, I have a quick. Say somebody outside of the cult picks up one of these, will they still get access to the Discord? Because I think that's really crucial that we still have entry points, because something that happened with apes when they made their mutants, sure, it got diluted, but they had a wider audience. They were able to get so much more penetration after that, if that makes sense.
For the Nouns Wizards?
Yeah.
So the Nouns Wizards are like a community project insofar as I'm not necessarily writing the contract or taking money, but I think it's still part of our community. So in this abstract question of if someone mints a new NFT, is it still part of the wizard community? The answer is sometimes yes. But I don't know that I think of Nouns Wizards so much as the same as mutants versus maybe like, let's say, warriors maybe is kind of, or maybe souls or like
Okay, that
eagles,
makes a
right?
lot more
Because
sense.
it's like, yeah.
Yep. So if I just maybe like interject a little bit. I think in the sense of like if you're part of the community and you kind of like want to like help with like building like lore, building like artwork, whatever, like we definitely welcome it, and you can create like your own kind of like collection within like OpenSea, whatever. So like let's say you do like wizard art commissions or whatever, you can do like Michael's wizard arts, and then you can put your collection up, you can mint them as NFTs, and then wizards can commission you, you can send them to their wallets after they've purchased this from you. And we definitely like kind of like we wouldn't like gate you from like participating and like talking with us. There are still like some channels that you can't access without actually owning a wizard, but we definitely aren't like gonna like shun you or anything just if you don't own a wizard, especially if you're helping out and stuff. If anything, we would be happy if we're able to maybe fund you into getting a wizard by means of like you taking commissions, and maybe use those commissions if you want so you can own wizard for yourself. I think
Go
yeah.
ahead. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. I think it would take a little bit of guidance on my part because I am still so new to this realm, but I would honestly love to eventually be deeper into a community. And I don't know, when I see you guys in this kind of, I grew up with Final Fantasy and old games that really like, I don't know. They're amazing to me. The art form, the way that it works, and so when I see your guys' art, it makes me think, oh, I already have a few ideas that I would love to bring to life. So I appreciate that offer very much. Who was that was just speaking to me? By the way, I want to follow you.
Maybe there was Zayla Soul and then Magus Devin.
All right, thank you.
100%. You're definitely welcome to come and join the Discord and have talk with us more. We can give you guidance whenever you need. And we're very helpful. So if you have any questions, don't feel like you're a noob and it's scary to ask. We'll be more than happy to help.
Much love, man.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we want the Wizards Discord to be like the friendliest Discord there is. And I think to answer some of your questions, more abstract questions around like, what does it mean to be a part of a community? What does it mean to mint an NFT? What does it mean to be a part of a collection? I think the first step there is maybe collecting some NFTs or just being part of our Discord. And I think some of those nuances can work out, but we probably should do a better job about writing up some blog posts to help like explain those things.
I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
think we've just got a minute. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we just got a minute left. Hi, Sharon. Hello. She was here and then fell off.
No, I see her.
I'm
She's
not
here.
sure.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Well, there's a challenge when you have somebody who's 60 and with technology. So sorry for all the glitches.
We are willing to wait.
I got a new
It is not a problem.
Got a new laptop last week, and I'm figuring out how to use it, and I could hear all of you.
Adorable.
So I've taken a different approach with my wizard, as some of you know. I'm writing children's stories. So my work is basically I'm maybe about a 9, 10, 11-year-old. So that's my take, and that's what I enjoy writing. And so I'm here to read to you a bit from a book I'm writing. It's a part of a chapter. So here we go. It's my
excited.
wizard's called Enchantress Galatea of the Heath. Galatea shut the garden gate and headed out into her family's land. She walked to the east for a distance and then to the north. She continued this pattern until her home was not in view and then walked on farther. After a few minutes, she stopped and scanned the horizon several times for anyone moving around. Finally, she sat down in a field of heather. Reaching deep into her left boot, she pulled out her mom's necklace. Galatea massaged her temple and took several deep breaths while staring at it. Since the ambush, it had been hidden in the zipped lining. Turning the locket in several directions, she studied the shape and the engraving. She thought to herself, why was Mom so desperate for me to keep this safe and hide it? Galatea rubbed the top of the necklace and paused and looked around. The only thing that moved was the gentle breeze. Her face scowled as she leaned in and pressed it much harder and leaned back. This time, even the wind was quiet. Galatea put on the necklace and opened her eyes wide while she listened and waited. A faint noise turned her attention to the forest. Suddenly, the plants under the trees started to move. Coming out of the woods, hopping towards her, was a young green bullfrog. Galatea realized it was coming directly at her. "Hey, what's the matter?" she called. The frog looked behind him and looked back at Galatea as he increased his speed. Sludge flew behind him with every hop. She held up her hand and yelled, "Whoa, stop!" But the frog locked eyes on her. With only a few feet between them, Galatea scooted backwards, drew a line in the dirt, and cast a spell. The frog bounced off the invisible wall and shook his head and frowned. A blue heron swooped over them and continued on its way. The frog glared wide-eyed at Galatea. "Well, you were coming at me fast, and you're dripping with slime," she explained. The frog shrugged his shoulders and bellowed, "Room." Galatea studied the swamp bullfrog, who was covered with shades of moss green and tones of the dark forest. "I guess you're not really a threat," she said as her hand released the spell. "You're not even full grown." The frog turned his head from side to side and noticed a snack. Nearby, a large black beetle was making a run for it through the soil. The frog zapped it, but the bug got stuck in his throat. The frog first bulged his eyeballs out and then retracted them into his head, forcing a swallow. Opening his eyes, he grinned with a drip of drool hanging off his bottom lip. "Do you always have something oozing out of your mouth?" asked Galatea. The frog raised one eyelid high and answered, "Rrrr." Then he hopped a little closer and stopped next to a daisy growing through the heather. A fly buzzed over the flowers until a long pink tongue sucked it in. Galatea giggled, "You're a hungry little guy." The frog responded with a loud burp, forcing the fly back out of his mouth. It stuck on Galatea's cheek, covered in green yuck. They both laughed while she flicked it back at the frog. He swallowed it and then burped again. Galatea ducked, but nothing was airborne. Her laughter increased until she snorted. The frog zapped his front foot and roared, "Roar, roar." Gaining her composure, Galatea took off the necklace, zipped it back into its secret place. Looking at the frog, she said, "Enough of this. I need to go home. Now." The frog wiggled his butt into the dirt and curled his bottom lip forward and grumbled, "Roar." Galatea teased, "Don't pout." But the frog turned around and hung his head down. "Don't pout," she said again, picking him up. Holding him up to her face, she explained, "You're adorable. In fact, I'm going to take you home." The frog responded with a small gurgle as he shook his head up and down. "Well, you're going to need a name. How about Lithobates?" she asked. The frog tilted his head back and was quiet. Galatea just kept right on talking. "Yes, Lithobates. Lithobates it is. But I will call you Litho." Smacking his foot into her palm, he gave a loud roar. "Litho, you will like living in my mom's garden. It's beautiful," she replied. Wrapping her fingers around him, Galatea headed towards home. After a short distance, she peeked and found Litho sound asleep, with some green slime dripping from the corner of his mouth. And that's it.
Oh, My heart is
That was
melted.
so
I
wholesome.
love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
That warmed a certain place in my heart, man. I haven't had that in like a near decade or more.
Yeah, that was amazing. That was unreal.
Thank you.
Story time
I
with
don't know if
Sharon
you
all
have
the time.
Yeah, we are going to need more of these stories. I don't know if you have the Secret Tower Discord pulled up, but you is like full of fans.
No, no, I don't.
Frog
Yeah,
emojis.
I called it
and
like cockatrice noodle soup
hearts.
for the soul.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
Exactly.
Magic.
So I have to
Magical.
say,
Thank you so
for
much.
all the people that are new out there, why am I here? And I owe it all to J-Mander, who's my son, who, he started out slow and invited me to the party. And he's like, well, you need to first get a Coinbase Pro account and then put some money in it. And then he said, well, Mom, I bought a wizard and I think you might like wizards. And, I'm like, what do you mean you bought a wizard? And then the minute he said, you're going to be able to write a story about your wizard, I'm like, oh, I want a wizard. So that's how it happened.
Oh, man.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
I couldn't love this more, and I'm so excited to see like an illustrated or animated version of Galatia Finds Her Familiar. Oh,
well, I need some deep voice to do the frog because I definitely, in my little high-pitched voice, cannot do a deep.
We have people in the community who have deep voices. We can find a voice.
Well, thank you.
Ooh. Thank you so much. All right, everyone. We are now over time. That was absolutely beautiful. I am so thankful to Sharon for sharing that
thank
lore.
you again.
Looking forward to many more. Yeah. And that was Wizard Wednesday, everyone. So this is now Dota and
Loch Ness.
Bear Snake, Loch Ness, Bear Snake.
Tom
Everybody.
and Sharon TV signing off.